Okay. Hey, hello, thank you. So, I'm Paolo Armao and I'm based in Turin, Italy. And I am lead sound designer at 3 4 Big Things here in Turin. We are, we'll say, like medium-sized company. We are 60 people at the moment, and the sound team is, we have like 4 people working here,
Mhm.
and one audio programmer, 2 sound designers, music composers, and then I work as lead. I started, well, I should say that I started working in the movie industry, and I worked there for
Mhm.
15 years, and that really put the basis for for creating content, and it's reacting to what I was watching on screen, and learning how I would have treated the aesthetics of the sound, which is something that is very easy to do. It's not very easy, but it's easier to do on films because it's easier
Mhm.
to create placeholders and uh, at least have a sort of guideline for what will be your sound track. And so I worked for 7 years at a post production facility here in Turin. And after that, I joined another sound designer. And for 6 years, we worked on animation films, feature films, and documentaries. And it was really fun. We really clicked, and we took care of the whole sound design process together, starting from the he's an amazing dialogue editor, and I took care of follies and special effects, and then together we took care of the mixing in the
Mhm.
mixing theater. So that was really, I would say, like a school for me to learn how to create sound effects, how to learn all the post production tricks, and which was really really cool, reacting to what was happening on screen and off screen as well, as we all know. And then after that, I I think it was 2014, and there was a video game community here in Turin that asked me to give a talk about sound design, and I gave a talk. There were a lot of people, and between them and among them there were at least four, yeah, founders, four future CEOs of video game companies. They listened to my talk and they said, "Wow, that was good, and we need someone." And so that was quite a good move, I think. And after that, I worked on my first video game, which was Red Out. And Red
Mhm.
Out was developed for the company I'm still working for. But at the time, I was working as a freelancer, and we had fun. It was crazy in as in many situations in for small indies, small indie studios. It was really good. It was fun, but they called me, I think, like 9 months, 10 months before the release. They said, "Oh, we really need to rework the sound design, and so can you start working for us?" And I worked for them
Mhm.
as a freelancer. After that, meanwhile, actually, I worked with another studio based in Turin on a VR game, which is called Blind VR. Those were crazy days talking about VR because there wasn't, like, technology was coming out, was still developing. It was art, and I had to talk to know plugin developers to get what I wanted. Blind was really really interesting, and that's because it was a game that was based on sound. It was a story of a blind girl, so everything, like, it was the player was guided through the sound. and it was really really good. And I learned a lot about the binaural aspect and all the binaural technology, and which is amazing. And I'm happy to see that now this technology is coming to a new level. Is thanks to all the amazing the amazing work that Dolby is doing. As I think it's really cool that we can now experience video games or films or music using headphones or using several loudspeakers. That's a good improvement. And after that, the Redout company, asked me to join them full time. And that was 2018, and I'm still working with them. It was a long path, a lot of experiments, a lot of learning about everything, because it's not just about technical aspects. To work as a lead sound designer, you need to learn how to work with other departments, to open a dialogue with other leads, to hire people, which is something I know you're very interested in, and and I am too. So I'm happy, to create connections with other colleagues. And so working as a lead sound designer is not just about creating sound effects, and implementation and integration is so many things. The famous soft skills that we all know. And what I love to do in my everyday work is taking care of everything from the content creation to the integration. We work in Wise and Unreal. So what I do is, and what I ask my colleagues to do is, let's not stop in the content creation. You should think about a sound, think about how you want the sound to behave, and write, the first structure of your logic. That's how you will get to know your sound. That's how you will learn how to what the project needs, how to get datas, and which datas are relevant for you and for your team. So something that I will say that it's really really important is thinking about from writing your ideas to creating content, to write the logic of your sound or music system. So that's what my daily life is. I was saying Leonard before we started this live that I bought an apartment that used to be a store, and I'm in the basement right now, which is became my studio, and that was a very important choice. It's something that, but it's something that is part of my life. Is we live to create sound, and you need to put yourself in the best position.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's I guess as far as the current titles you're working on, are they public yet or not public?
Yeah, we're going to release Redout 2 for 3 4 Big
Mm.
Things. 3 4 Big Things is a part of the Saber Interactive group, and Redout 2 will be released mid-June, I think.
Oh
And
wow.
that was really changed my life, because it was the first time that I used Wise in a project. And I was coming from, I worked using F mode and Unreal Audio as well, which is really interesting for many features. But this was the project, the first time we used Wise, and what was really important to me is that I feel that I'm happy to move between all these middlewares and audio engines. Fmod was necessary because I was coming from the moving industry, so has like a very DAW like
Mm-hmm.
interface. It was
Yeah.
very easy, but I'm happy now that in Wise I found this blank sheet, it's just like a blank piece of paper where you can start. You have to build everything using Wise. And
Mm-hmm.
that brought me back to my past where when I started working with Pure Data and Max MSP, Super Collider. Those are just tools where, sky's the limit with these tools.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to
Yeah.
create everything.
Yeah. So, yeah, what kind of training did you have to work with those tools in the beginning? Like, what is your background? Have you done, like, say, I don't know, more artistic, like high art kind of audio pieces, or is that just from an interest perspective? What's the background on that?
Uh, it's quite atypical because it's not here in Turin. When I here in Italy, when I started working, I realized that I wanted to like do sound design when I was 18 years old, and I was at the high school, and I said that's I don't know. When I look back, I'm just connecting dots, and everything was so natural in some ways. And so my first studies were on audio engineering.
Hmm.
Then after that, I started working in this post production facilities, and, and I only had one reference into it. So even just asking for feedback,
Hmm.
it was really really hard, and I suffered from
Uh,
that a lot.
hmm.
So I went to school. I went to Scotland, and I studied. That was like a summer workshop, but really changed my life. Was the School of Sound summer workshop.
Ah, yes, right.
Um, it was really good, and we had like the Blade Runner re-recording mixer. Pat Jackson, she was like the assistant at the sound editing for Apocalypse Now. So there were two teams, one coming from the North America and one coming from the UK and all over Europe. And we
Hmm.
learn a lot about two different mentalities and approaches, and you know it was really good. And when I say that changed my approach is because the first thing we did, I remember the first day they said, we know you came here to do sound editing, sound design, so you're going to start doing picture editing."
Hmm.
And to put myself on the other side and to learn how to cut the video for a dialogue,
Hmm.
man, it was so hard, but it's something that I still bring with me. So after
Yeah,
that,
that's yeah.
I
I was
came
just going
back.
to say
Oh,
that's very much like Walter Murch. I mean, he's a picture editor as well. That basically those design concepts and editing concepts, they come across any sort of domain you're working in, and that's something, of course, that other people in the industry, the game audio industry, have said is that like you know, audio and sound design and it should be treated as such to be part of the greater picture, as it were, as far as the experience. And I think that's something also that you did a roundtable yesterday a little bit talking about sort of how to integrate audio into projects. Is that right?
yeah, yeah, that was here in Milan, and it's something
Mm-hmm.
that I really care about is trying to communicate this tool, which is audio and music, and how we can use it, and how sometimes is a can be the best solution, sometimes can be the cheapest solution, because why
Mm-hmm.
not? You can tell stories with sounds coming, you know from off-frame, okay,
Yeah.
and you can. It's an amazing tool, and I feel that sometimes our role is to educate colleagues in other departments to and explain them, communicate with them
Hmm.
in order to get the best from us, and at the same time be try to be the programmer, try to understand what the programmer needs are and
Hmm.
issues and mentality. It's if we do that, if we open ourselves to that kind of communication, I feel that results, that really improve our results. And
Hmm.
Red Out 2, which is coming, in a couple of weeks, I think for me is a result of this. It's the first big title I worked with when I feel that, I really opened myself to other departments, and I sense that other departments opened to the audio department.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. It's something. My background is in coding, as well as music. I did, whatever jazz band and all that kind of stuff. Played in a band like in high school, and but yeah, my background is also in programming as well. So I always find it nice, when we talked to Anne Sophie Monjou, like the last Q&A, when she listed the people on her audio team, she's just like, yeah, we have like, however many people at IDOS. And then she's like, da, 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 da. And then also, of course, I think she actually listed the audio coders first, which I was just like, oh, that's so nice. Because the thing is that for people that are not, uh, I don't know, I guess you could say sensitive, but also just not seeing the whole process, that they're just like, oh, audio people, that's just the content side. But the thing is that the longer I think you work in game audio and the bigger projects and stuff like that, the more you realize how integral the entire team is, like the technical support, but then also they can add a lot of design stuff too. A lot of like audio coders, like myself, are also very good at doing audio too. And so it's nice to get input from everybody on the team. So as far as input, I think what we can do is we can start asking questions on the YouTube chat, which for me is over there. I know, kind of weird to point, but that's where it is for me. And what we'll do is I'll keep asking you questions, and then I'll sort of pull questions from the viewers, audience, I guess, but hopefully, the participants, as one might say. Um, so yeah, there's it's just nice to have, that idea that you're collaborating with the technical side, and then you're also collaborating with the game team. And I guess that was a question as well, is that on one hand you have, like you say, that doing design docs and documentation on the logic is important for doing game audio. But do you also do prototyping at all, like within Wise? Do you create small systems and then pass those along to other members of the team, or do you rough things out, say like in Super Collider, or do you, do like little like videos and then sort of present those to team members? Like, how do you work from the sort of, on the creative process as a person that's not going to be coding it, and how to pass your interactive designs onto the technical part of the team?
Well, I think that what I truly believe is that in order to create, to put all the team members in the position to create, to give their best, creative wise, is to give them responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the tricky thing, is how we connect, their creativity to, or our creativity as single human beings, to like a main design, to a main structure. And that's why I feel that choosing the right people to work with, it's really important. Is how do they react to feedback? How do they, are they proactive? Do they feel confident? Am I creating an environment where they feel confident in proposing new ideas? So what we do at 3 4 Big Things is, of course, I keep like the audio design document. I start the audio design document, and then I ask them to focus on specific part of this document and to develop
Hmm.
some ideas. Also, because there is something important that I consider is I'm 40 years old, and I do this job. I've been doing this job for the last 20 years. So my
Hmm.
ideas are structured. There are some theories that says that our brain start shifting a little bit, changes the energy a little bit as years pass.
Hmm.
So I really, I'm happy to have them sharing new ideas. So I create like the main structure of the audio design document, and I ask them to share some ideas. Then we go back, we discuss these ideas, and uh, in little by little, I ask them to take the responsibility of a certain aspect of that
Hmm.
audio design document. Let's say engines for spaceships, okay, and I asked them to produce some videos with that can be realized in the DAW system. So just using the
Hmm.
DAW, that's the sequence. I can capture the sequence, put the sequence somewhere on server, and then I say, okay, just sound design this sequence, the engines for this sequence, and then we discuss them, and I try to give them some direction, but I want them to feel comfortable uh, to feel the ownership of what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, that's possible because we're not working at the moment on AAA titles where things are
Hmm.
more difficult and more complex,
Hmm.
but we have milestones to we definitely have milestones, and we have producers, and so but I feel that when you put someone else in the position not just to do to realize the sound effect, but to feel part of the experience, feel part of the group, is is you can get great results. Of course, you need to find the right people that can
Yeah.
react to that approach.
Yeah. Nice. I think. Let's see if we got no questions yet. So that actually is a good segue where you say you need to find the right people. How do you find the right people? How do you do that? And also, what are you, when you find a group of people that might be a good fit, how do you find the exact people that you want to bring into your studio?
Oh man, it's so difficult. I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
Hmm.
It's I don't know. There's a lot to say about the recruitment processes you know we use in this moment worldwide. Uh, I personally I feel it's really hard to understand someone else's personality through a demo reel or like even an Unreal project.
Yeah.
That it's so hard. I mean, I have I want to be honest with myself. Is what we can judge from watching reels is if the candidate is good in choosing the right sound. I don't feel comfortable in analyzing the aesthetics
Hmm.
because you don't know if they got the sound from a sound library they bought $50 library and they put it we don't know that. It's almost impossible to do that.
Yeah.
So what I really appreciate in the past months, I had some uh, guys and girls that sent me. Uh, I remember there was this guy that sent me this. real, that was re-sound designing a sequence from, I don't remember which game, only using Serum, like
Mm-hmm.
the synthesizer. And
Yep.
that was really cool. That something that, really got my, our attention, because it was like, wow, it's a big risk you're taking. It's really hard to get. It takes a lot to get good aesthetics on using only synthesizers. But wow,
Hmm.
you have a direction, you have, way to go, and that's good. On the other side is choosing, you know from the reel you can get, if the candidate is ready to knows how to choose the right sound. That's what we can do. What I would
Mm-hmm.
love to do in the future is, when I find someone that I like, is saying him or her, okay, come and spend 3 days with the company in the company,
Mm-hmm.
and see if we click. We should both see if it clicks. That's something that
Mm-hmm.
it's a dream.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like for the most recent ones, are you all like, obviously through the global times we're living in, like how did you need to hire people during the pandemic, and do you have people working remotely? Like how does your team work together?
So we all work. I hired two guys remotely,
Hmm.
and we are working remotely.
Hmm.
And actually, one guy, I think he was in Vancouver for the Vancouver Film School, and he just finished
Okay.
the Vancouver Film School,
Yep.
and we had a chat, and we clicked, and we said, okay, are you, will you be able to come back to Italy, and do you want to join us? And he came back to Italy, but he's not here in Turin. So we work
Hmm.
every day remotely using Discord, and I don't know, the world really changed in the past month. And
Uh-huh.
I miss that. I miss the personal connection. But I think we're learning how to collaborate, how to, even learning new technologies, to share
Hmm.
sessions, to share. But I definitely miss that. I definitely miss being in the same room, and discussing, like, I don't know, Monday morning, saying, okay, let's discuss this.
Yeah.
How do you want to approach this? What we do
Hmm.
is, what I'm trying to do is, every 2 to 3 months, have at least 1 day or 2 days that we spend together, planning the next milestone. That's something that's important, that can bring everyone, on the same project, really. Like,
Hmm.
are
Yeah,
there
same focus.
yeah, a director I used
Hmm.
to work with once said to me, is the most difficult thing on a film is to bring everyone working on your film. And
Right.
it's so true.
Yeah, yeah. I've done audio direction on a couple projects, but primarily they've been one or two people, and they've worked remotely, and I've been able to give them pretty good direction. With the current game I'm working on, Eco, I'm audio directing that and having a composer, another composer working on that, and yeah, he's doing great work. But it like if you look at our email thread, like because we did it during the pandemic, it's nuts because it just goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Because how do you talk like about music over email? Like it's just the subtlety of working with audio is just it's difficult even when you're in person, but at least when you're in person you have all this additional feedback. You can gauge the person's reaction, or if they say something, but you're kind of like, oh, so you're saying, like, actually what you're saying is you don't really like that section and I should redo it and have it more like this other thing that you're talking about. Whereas with email, I've spent a lot, like my email and writing skills have gone, I think they've improved a lot because then that way I can qualitatively, say like, this is something that I really like, and then quantitatively, like, this is something that will just not work in the game because of these things. And yeah, to try and basically strengthen, the strengths, and then also, edit out the weaknesses is a difficult process. But yeah, to find that to re-guide people if they're sort of going off on their own, which I've done in the past as well, can be kind of tricky because a lot of the times you just don't know that you're doing it and that you've gotten off track. So having direction is like very helpful at that point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we have a
I,
couple questions here. Yep. Yeah, please go ahead.
no, I was saying, haven't you used any Discord or I don't know Google Meet for this project?
Uh, the funny thing is that although I say this, like as far as like it's nice to have the additional sort of channels of information when you're especially in person. Like I do prefer being in person. But the thing is that like with the school of video game audio, I've been very used to doing everything asynchronous. So all my material is all pre-recorded, and then students get access to it when they need to. There's students around the world, so everybody's in different time zones. They send their stuff back whenever they're ready. Even like here, there's a couple of people working with the school. So Viviana, she's the senior sound artist at EA, but she also helps us here. She's in Vancouver, but when she does her work with the school, it's all online. So she just basically gives feedback on the initial 4 student projects, and I'm not like looking over her shoulder. I mean, we obviously chat a fair amount about the stuff, but same thing with Jordan. He's like on the East Coast, and Portland, Maine, and we do Discord, to basically sync up from time to time. But with previous projects, even with Retro City Rampage, that was an indie game, and the developer was here, but we just did everything over email, which was fine. And as far
Hmm.
as talking about like that example that you got from where the person submitted a CRM project, that's actually basically what that project was for me, because all 100% of the sound effects were all done Nintendo style. So they were all, done in a style that could, feasibly play on like an NES, like an original Nintendo Entertainment System. All the music, all the sounds. So you do sometimes get games where that's actually required to do a lot, like a lot of synthesis.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Well, I'll get to questions here. So this one's from Alex. He's asking, what are valued interpersonal qualities and design skills in a productive team member? Obviously, everyone has a different process when it comes to their creations, but what are the valued interpersonal qualities and design skills for team members that you find?
Wow. The $1 million questions that we all may. Ah, and I mean, my opinion, what's important for me and is um, proactivity
Mm-hmm.
is seeing sometimes you um, your creative director, your sound designer, your lead ask you to do something, try to do you know give him or give her some alternatives,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I really like. And as I was saying earlier, I think the ability to receive
Mm-hmm.
feedback are really hard. I mean, they are hard for me. I know that sometimes, when I talk to our creative director and I worked for I don't know how many hours on a specific sound, and he says, well, we don't really like, don't think it really fits the shit.
Yeah.
It's, of course, you have that moment in which your body is saying like, wants to scream and run out and punch walls.
Mm-hmm.
It's natural. Okay, you just need
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to take your moment to rebalance and defend what you want to defend, because there is something that you want to defend, there is something you don't want to leave, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And but of course, your creative director, your lead, your reference has a different approach, you may like it or not, but it's really really important to open a communication to that. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
react, shutting down and say no. This is my sound, and I want to put it like this, and you need to open a dialogue and start sort of diplomacy,
But yeah.
and start saying, I like, I want to keep that. I understand your reasons. First thing is when someone gives me the feedback, the first thing that I try to do is try to focus and listen. That's what we should do, right? We are sound design.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So first thing is listen, really listen. Really sit down and listen what the needs are. And then analyze what you did and what you can keep from from your work, what you can keep and what you're ready to trade
Mm-hmm.
in order to get the best solution. Because I would say that 90% of the time that you open a communication with someone else, the idea gets better and better.
Yeah. 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 I mean, game audio is a highly collaborative process. And so being able to take critique and manage that and be able to iterate on things. And sometimes also, some people, when they give feedback where it might be slightly confusing or it's just not clean, like there's some sort of other thing that was not spoken that's in the critique. That's also another thing that can be tricky as as basically like a collaborator on the audio side of things to go to unpackage that and go like, well, what did they mean? And sometimes it is working through some emotion, especially if you're finaling. it can be really tricky and to figure out how to take like you were saying earlier with the direction side of it is where if the direction is set really clearly, then even if there's somebody that's giving feedback that's partially in the right direction but partially maybe not in the right direction, is to be able to say, like you say, to basically come back and go like, yes, I understand, I'll do most of what you're saying, but then there's also a large chunk of this that actually I think would better suit the project going this way, and sort of try to take a little bit of yourself out of it so that you're not making your own game rather than working on a game together.
I think also it's what is really really important is try to, and just came, while you were saying this, I realized that what's really really important for us is to translate what some feedback are like confusing feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I learned, I don't know, that I realized that a few years ago is when someone is still, most of the times that a director, creative director says, well, can you, turn down the volume for that sound effect? Most of the times it's because the sound effect is not the right one.
Right.
They don't like it. Probably
Mm-hmm.
you don't like it as well. And so, like cutting the volume, lowering down the volume for that sound effects is a way to say, okay, I'll keep it, but I don't like it, because if it's the
Mm-hmm.
right one, you're ready to put it, in the face
Mm-hmm.
of listeners or players. So
Yeah, and
sometimes,
sometimes. Yeah.
no, no, sorry.
Yes, please. Oh, I
Okay.
was just, to me, I see an analogy with lighting where it's just like you have a very complex scene. And if you're like sort of like half lighting a lot of objects and like, people, then the focus of the foreground can become very confusing. So sometimes, like, and that's a kind of a mixed perspective that I tend to take as well, is that a lot of the times, if it's not working where I have that thing either soloed or that stem up, then if it doesn't work, then I just take it out. I don't try to like mix it down and go like, well, I kind of like it, so I'm just going to sort of shove it in the background, and then if people happen to look, then they can sort of hear it. But it's because usually what it does is it just confuses the focus, and it's better to just take it out entirely. And then if it sounds strange, then it's a thing to be reworked and to brought in a different way and refocus the attention on that.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, yeah, that's correct. So be open. So that's, I think those are like the most, like the human skills that are really really important. Technically speaking, if I feel answering to the, continuing answering the question is, technically
Hmm.
speaking is, the more you have, the more you can put on the table. And the best is, look, I think that we have standards to follow. We have references, but if you have a mentality for which, an open-minded mentality for which you can approach more situations,
Hmm.
it's, I think that's a really special skill that I would love to that I love to consider. So it's okay to have some specific, very very vertical skills, like, I don't know, gunshots. I know that I personally, I will never be able to reach the quality of some people out there that record and treat and edit gunshots for in their everyday life. But
Hmm.
the important thing is, how do you treat that sample, that sound, to match, the your project, the game you're working on. And
Hmm.
that means having technical skills, knowing how to use plugins. I
Hmm.
see most of the times, a lot, I see, you know me included, I buy plugins and I start, playing with them without really knowing what they're doing. And it's okay.
Hmm.
Sometimes you need this initial, approach, for which you just start moving stuff, and but you need to know what a compressor does. You need to do what a transient designer does. You need to
Hmm.
know how to get the right reverb, for, the UI. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really
Yeah. Yeah.
spend time in reading manuals. As soon as you buy the plugin, the first thing you should do is read what the plugin does.
Yeah, and I think with working on a team, the nice thing is that if you can get it 80% of the way there, then someone can be like, "Oh, I see what you're trying to do with this, whatever soft, like a real time, reverb. But if you tweak the parameters like this, you probably get like, it'll sound less metallic." So, you know,
Yeah.
that's a thing too when working with coders. If you know a little bit about code, you can just say like, sketch a few things out, and then it's just like, I don't know how to do this. I'm not going to check it into the repository, but these are some of the ideas that I have on the code side of things. Can you please help me out? And maybe we can sort of, iterate on this together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions here. We've got soft skills. I think we kind of covered already. I will come back to this. That question. We have a question from Jordan. I think you said you like having your sound designers at least think through the implementation, but does everyone in the team implement? So, do composers sometimes make sound effects when needed, or are your roles at your company quite clearly defined?
Well, they are clearly defined. At the moment, we have one guy that, uh, whose background is in music composition,
Oh.
and so, and I asked him, because I really believe that, is, when we were working on the UI of Redout 2, I
Hmm.
said, okay, now the other sound designer who has a strong sound design background created like a first placeholder. I said, okay, now try communicating, because you, music composer, can give him some important information regarding tonality, regarding, microtonality, some very detailed, and they did an amazing job. I'm really really happy for that. So I think that composers have a strong, can give you a lot on UI sound design effects, sound effects design. The music composer, the guy who has a music composition background, is implementing a lot. He knows everything about the Wise project, both music and sound design. And again, it's part of the team I'm trying to build, which is everyone needs to know everything. Otherwise, you cannot communicate. You cannot create communication between sound effects and music. Redout 2 is a game where you have, like, for everything plays at 100% of it. You have music, violent music, and you have violent in a lot of sound effects like ship engines, explosions, collisions, turbo boosts. And so if we want to make it sound nice, we all need to know what's the project about, all the details about the project. So we have, I don't know, the explosions that side chain the kick of the music for the kickstand for the music. So we all need to know everything about it. That's how you can get the best out of the project.
Yeah,
Project.
I guess I think I can sort of put a slight plug for the school here is that I mean you joined the school ages ago and you did a reel with us, so
It was
that was great.
amazing.
Thank you.
And I need to spend a
and
few words about that. Sorry. After that.
No, 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 of course. But I guess the small thing that I'll say is that that's one of the things that we really do at the school is try to upskill people in the areas where while they're working at a job that they might, you know, feel is an area that they want to strengthen. So be it, mostly on the coding side and implementation side, and then also sound design. Music would be a little tricky to try to, get people covered within the program, but at least music implementation is something for people that are existing composers. I mean, I'm a composer myself, so I can also help out on the creative side and give feedback on all that stuff, and I'm also a coder, so I can give feedback on that too. So just saying that that's something, that we've been working more with studios now because we are finding that studios do want to be more holistic in their approach and not just have people siloed into their small categories. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that a lot of uh, games that I keep as reference, and I remember, I don't remember if it was Sophie, the girl that did the Q&A last month. She mentioned
Yeah.
Limbo. I think she mentioned
Yes.
Limbo. And Martin Stig
Hmm.
Andersen is amazing, and I think really changed the way to look at sound design and music at the same time.
Hmm.
So sometimes, I mean, we are a medium, we are a big studio, but we're not at the moment doing like AAA games, and it's easier to open this kind of trends with
Hmm.
creative directors, but try to use sound when you're studying, when you are preparing your demo reel, or try to use sound in a new, innovative way, creative way. Don't think just, okay, I just put footsteps. So you can do that first, but then try thinking, okay, how would I, what could change the sound? What could change of the game if I change the sound? I
Mm.
can start thinking about new mechanics triggered by sound. And Limbo is an amazing example. So
Yeah.
learning the rules and learn how to break them.
Yeah. So I guess with that, what rules did you learn with us?
Well, I was thinking about that when you were saying earlier, talking about your approach of, like, it's not a real time approach. And I remember that the first time you gave me a feedback, I don't know if it was 2008 or 9 when I took the class. The first
Oh,
time
it
I
was
was,
not that. It wasn't that long ago, but it was definitely years ago.
okay, yeah, at least 10 years
Yeah.
ago. Okay.
Sure.
and and I remember the first time I was a little bit okay, so I'm alone in this process, and because we didn't have a real time communication. Then
Mhm.
I realized the importance of that. It's
Mm.
when you're left alone. That's how we need to learn. That's how we learn things. I don't think there is any shortcut to that aspect. It's one of my guys a couple of weeks ago said, I I want to, are there any online courses to get better about blueprints? And I said, well, no, the only thing to get better about blueprints is creating yourself a problem and solve it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what I found from your, from that course, is that you were giving me very precise feedback about what I had to do, but then I had to take care of everything. And that was a great lesson that I learned from you. So thank you very much, because, I wouldn't be here.
Oh, no, no, you're very
Yeah, no,
welcome.
it's true. It's
It's
true.
cool. Yeah, it's basically I try to view the school as a mentorship kind of focus, and so I try to give people feedback in a way that will basically take them to whatever their next level is. So we have students, coming at us from just out of high school, and other ones that are audio directors. We also have you mentioned Limbo and Martin Stig Anderson, and yeah, we have a colleague. I won't out them, but there's people like that are coming to us and basically looking to polish up, implementation skills and learn more about coding and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is really cool to see sort of not only where people come from, in their time with us, but then also where they go to, such as
Yeah.
yourself. It's cool to see sort of after the years that I've been doing this, because even before that, you said that you had a student that took the Vancouver Film School
Yeah.
course here, and I started that like the game audio side of that course like years and years ago. I think that was like 2005 ish or something like that. I worked there for about 4 or 5 years and put that together alongside the sort of linear audio portion of the sound design course. So yeah, I've been teaching for a while, and yeah, it's been fun to see where people sort of end up. So what I will say is that we, as far as our, we kind of keep things around an hour ish. So if people are like looking to get back to work or whatever it is, this is sort of the 5 minute ish warning. But I think it would be great to continue with questions if you have time, just to basically sort of, finish up the questions that we have over the next, 15 ish minutes or so. So just
Sure.
saying, thanks everybody for joining for the hour. But if you need to go, that's not a problem. But if you want to hang out, we're going to continue on for a little bit longer just to make sure that people have their questions answered.
Yeah.
So let's see, what do we got? Another question here. This one is from Mark. Hey, Paolo, does everyone have space to give feedback on design choices at your studio? And if so, how is it moderated? Is it fairly open, or is there like a written sort of procedure or etiquette?
Well, I would say yes. I would say that it's very open, but the company is very open, has this, mentality that I really liked, and that's the reason why I'm here. Is so we're very open. I'm very open to get, collect all the suggestions and ideas, and but then of course that's my responsibility to choose them between them, and to you know put them in the big project, in the big, yeah, into the whole process. So what we do is, I when we are doing pre-production, is I create, let's say, chapters for all the sound, let's say, for all the cues that I find from the
Mm-hmm.
GDD, and then I do like a first, I write down some ideas, and then I ask them to read it and to add some comments about the uh, about that specific aspect. And I asked to do the same thing to the game designers, to see if they like my ideas, and to I think that the most important thing is, as you ask, let's say, game designers to read your audio design document, is you start a process. They start,
Hmm.
you light the sparkle, and they start answering to your inputs. That's something that I find very useful. Is maybe in the beginning just write down a few lines, say, hey, I will use the sound to do this, that. As soon as you do that, and I know that most of the time some game designers might say, well, I don't really have time for this, and I say, just spend 15 minutes to read this document. It's a short version, and write
Hmm.
down. And as they read it, you start a communication, you start a dialogue, you open a dialogue. So I ask people to add comments, and then I review them, and I discuss them, personally discuss them with them, and then, yeah, I think I'll find, sometimes you have to block some ideas, but if you're not playing like power games, you just explain why you're blocking these ideas. It's not just because I'm
Yeah.
the lead sound designer. You say, well, sometimes I say, well, I don't really have time in this moment, but let's find a moment next week to talk about it. At the moment, in this moment, I should say, just no, this doesn't fit. But always finding time to conversate about that.
Yeah. I guess my follow up question there is like, within your team, how do you communicate and express ideas and collaborate with your coding, team? Like, how do you work with those members?
So we are lucky enough because we have a great audio programmer,
Hmm.
who is not just a programmer. Not in a bad way, no, in a good way. It's not. It's not that he has only a background in programming. He really loves music and sound design, and it's really open to that. And he gives amazing ideas. So many great ideas came from him. Um, so I think that I don't want to get too much into programming.
Yeah.
Uh, I can start providing some blueprints, but then I need to step back because otherwise I will get lost in, oh, the system works, I'm done. An issue that I have. Okay, if I start
Hmm.
programming, I'm happy and satisfied if the that logic works, and
Right.
like my tension goes down. So
Hmm.
and but what I asked the audio programmer to do is we just had a great session with two programmers and two sound designers, in which we show the sound people show the programmers what we did in Blueprint, and it was amazing because we were collaborating and sharing ideas and found issues. And so as soon as we tried, there is an amazing book about it. It's called The Comet and the Tornado, but by
Mm.
Randy Pausch and Dan Marinelli, I think.
Hmm.
And they were founders of the Carnegie Mellon Master. And Randy Pausch was a programmer, was a
Hmm.
computer scientist, and Dan Marinelli is, I think, he's a theater actor and yeah, and professor. And they put them together in the same room, and they said, okay, you should prepare the best university master ever. And the book explains a lot about the relationship between creative minds and more scientific scientific minds. Yeah.
Hmm. I When I was at the BAM Center a few times, this is sort of, it sounds similar to the sound on sound kind of scenario where basically people from all sorts of disciplines in this case were thrown together, and basically you try to figure out how to collaborate, and there was presentations, and it is very interesting to see how yeah, people who are in different disciplines, how their disciplines overlap in different ways. And yeah, I really value that sort of experience because it made it made me figure out more ways to express things that I've technical stuff, because I sort of consider coding to be like another language, and then I would definitely say, like, for you, that it's like, why try to learn a fluency in a whole other language when there's time that should actually be spent doing sort of the core topics. And I find that even being a programmer on eco, that I will draft stuff out, but then the coders will actually take that further and put it properly into the game, because we have a whole procedure of, like, code checks and all that kind of stuff, where it's just like, sure, you could add some code, but are you willing to maintain it? Like, are you going to be the person that actually sees that through all the way? And I find that it's just better for me to sketch something out, and then in a sense have somebody. It's kind of like doing, like, like dictation, where you're just like, oh, there's like this and this and this, and then you have other people that help you out, write it down, formalize it, and then take ownership of it from there. And I find that that process makes more sense, because if I spent all my time coding, I wouldn't have time to really do the sound design to the degree that I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have more questions. Okay, great. Oh, well, this is actually a follow-up question from what you're saying, as far as like your procedure of working with the coders yesterday or today, this morning.
Yeah, it was this morning for me. It was last
Yes,
night for you.
exactly. That's right. To basically say, like, do you always work in Unreal and Wise, or is that kind of like a recent shift for you and your company? And if so, like, why?
Well, Unreal, I think the company was born using Unreal, so that was
Hmm.
something I could not change. We
Hmm.
started using Wise 3 years ago,
Hmm.
and again, I'm not a big fan of, like, I'm not a fanboy of Wise or Fmod, or they all are different tools.
Yeah.
Same with those. It's not. I have my favorite one, which you can guess, coming from the movie industry, but uh, I am not. What I really like about Wise is that really it's I you can really do anything, and I found a little bit more limitations using Fmods,
Hmm.
but it was also a different moment for me. So the fact that I think it's more Wise put me in the position to change my mentality. Even the UI is so different from the one I was used to, coming from the linear world, that uh, it's like, yeah, put me in the position to change and shift my mentality, and to not think to a sound in a linear way. But that's a very
Hmm.
personal thing. Um, so yeah, I think it's hard to give. I have so many things to say about it, but it's not what I really like. There are so many technical things that I really enjoy the system based object. The fact that you can provide, like, several outputs with almost zero effort. I remember with Redout 1, I had to build two different sound banks. One was for the 5.1 mix, and one was for the stereo mix, because we had some
Hmm.
issues with the down mix. We
Yeah.
were not happy with the down mix. And what I find that I really like today in Wise is that you can deliver from 2.0 to Dolby Atmos. And
Yeah.
if you have the opportunity to monitor that, in a mixing room, it's very easy to shift. Okay, to say, okay, let's see how it sounds in 2.0, in 2.1, because I want to add the LFE to that specific sound, in 5.1, in 7.1.4. So that's something that I really like.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting stuff happening with Dolby Atmos in video games. Previous colleague of mine, Alistair Hurst, is working with them and creating some, yeah, really exciting technology that I think will, continue to inform games for, the next, well, we'll see how long. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening with Atmos, and then obviously, as you know, with binaural stuff, if you can put stuff in a sort of a spatial sense, then, and if you can fold down from Atmos to binaural,
So is
there's,
is
yeah,
is he working at Dolby now,
I
Alistair?
think so.
Yeah. So he
Yeah,
helped
I
us a
think
lot.
so.
He helped me a lot with Red Out too. It was, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you very
That's
much.
great.
It was great.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, and I guess as far as sort of the, I guess you could say, platform, being platform agnostic, as far as like, I'll just use Wise or I'll use Fmod or Unreal or whatever it is to implement the audio. That I think it really does make sense as far as, what does the game need? These are all just tools, and sure, you can have sort of, your you know, I guess your favorites and stuff like that. But also for me, teaching, I really enjoy teaching all of them. I like seeing. To me, game audio is like it's like this crystal, and I can see it from many different directions. Teaching from different softwares. So we have, we're lucky enough to be part of like the, Firelight, like the Fmod Studio website. We help train people with our FMAR course. We help a lot of folks similarly with the WISE course. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening with like Unreal 5. There's all this meta sounds, this and that, and then there's Unity. Just recently, actually, one of the students that asked a question, Mark, has been doing great work with visual scripting in Unity, which is just new. So there's always something, yeah, exactly. There's always, that's one of the reasons why I've been doing this for so long, because I love the idea of basically like refocusing my creative output through technology. And I just find that super exciting.
Yeah.
Um, so, other questions. Let's see. So, this is from Paul Shelley, another student. Hi, Paolo. Thanks for sharing your experience. What are your expectations for sound effect output, let's say, in a day? So, I guess talking about, like, what would you expect, sort of, like you were saying, I guess, productivity? If Are you able to put metrics to that, or just sort of like a general, less sort of more like a qualitative, I guess, sort of like thing? Like, how do you judge or evaluate sort of productivity, I guess, for sound designers that you work with?
Hmm.
Yeah, tricky.
Okay, I have the answer. Okay, I'll try to give the answer. No, okay, something I identify different stages of the sound effect creation, and I would say that the first one for me comes from the guts. Like, okay, don't just put down something and see how your body, ears, and emotions react to that. I don't know, to a scene, to a sound, or and so in that moment, I think you should spend not that much, because you have to implement and integrate it. And as soon as you integrate your first, let's say your first revision, your first asset, you need to start going deep into it and get ready to get lost into iterating and go deep and trust the process, because there is a moment in which you say, okay, that's the sound, that's the one. So in the first phase, I will consider the ability to um, almost perform, something, even
Hmm.
an action, like you do follies, perform something just to get a first idea about what the sound is. The second stage is get ready to get lost and be patient, because you need to sculpt or paint. It's like sculpting a lot. Is you start from a block, and then you start shaping it. And the third stage is get ready to detach.
Yes.
So find the right moment to say, okay, that's enough. I know I can go on. There are some effects for which I can go on for years and always
Hmm.
getting better and better. But find the right moment to detach. So how I support this process is on my DAW, I use this plugin which is called Project Time.
Hmm.
And I have it there, and I ignore it. I put it on the master bus and I ignore it, completely ignore it. And when the project finishes, I go back to all the sound effects that I realized, or the most important sound effects that I realized, and I read, how many hours it took to realize that sound effect. And that helped me a lot. Using that plugin helped me a lot in uh, learning how to trust my process, because you say, okay,
Hmm.
see, in, I don't know, let's say 50 hours, the average is in, I don't know, in 16 hours, I get a collision sound
Hmm.
for a science fiction video game between two
Hmm.
ships, or I don't know. In 20 hours, I realized for the average of 20 hours of work on the dough, I, I get an explosion sound starting from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can to take it a step further as far as because Paul's probably asking like sort of as far as a meter stick, like what should I be looking at? I guess you would take those and you can see how long it takes for you to do that, and then probably for the people that are a bit more junior, you scale it back, maybe allow them to take either an extra 50% or
Yeah.
twice as long to basically compete like a similar process. Yeah, that's interesting. I did see there was a person on Twitter that similarly had like, hey, this plugin's available for free and it's great for like time management. And that is once you get to like the level that you're at where you're like leading a team, those processes are like super important. Basically, where you're keeping statistics, like actual metrics on your production, and understanding that, yeah, like working on audio for a game is actually like an objective, like it's a job, and there's things that need to get done, and certain things should
Mhm.
take a certain amount of time, and then if things take too long, then one needs to either redesign or just leave them at that particular quality level and move on to the next thing. And when starting out, that can be quite difficult to have that kind of discipline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's see. We have one, I guess, follow up question. The question was basically asking about, because on one hand, it might have been nice to get like a demo of somebody doing all their work in Serum, but then the follow up question is sort of like, sure, it's impressive, but end of the day, like when somebody's doing kind of like a Serum flex like that, like sure that is something, but like how does that apply to the actual process of like if you brought that person in and it turns out that they're just a serum wizard, but they're not so great on like say working from library or doing recording or doing Foley, like how do you address that question?
Wow. Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, what I was trying to say is that thing got my attention. Um, got my attention because, if I really have to be honest, it is hard to get to understand, to get the right information about the person you're looking for, the professional you're looking for, just watching, I would say, 1 minute to 3 minutes show reel. And
Hmm.
and and I'm struggling with this because sometimes I realize that there are some people is when you have two showreels, you get, I mean, we are receiving this good amount of showreels, and
Mm,
you filter them, so someone filters them, and then you start watching different showreels. And of course, if you have someone with the perfect aesthetics, you say, wow, he's good, she's good, he's good.
hmm.
But there is this problem to solve is how do I know if he just or she just bought for us it is
Hmm.
important that the candidate is able to realize original sound effects, and it's not the same for everyone, and I will not say that
Yeah.
I'm using only original sound effects. I'm not. But
Hmm.
that's something that I consider because it means that that person is able to has the tools to create uh, different to match the need, the production and the creative needs. We are not like a company. We are a company that changes a lot, from project to project. So we need someone that is able to produce. Today is like spaceship sound, and yesterday was a video game, like a project based on Mars, and it was a
Hmm.
comedy, like. So I agree. It's not that you can do that every day, but I was just trying to say something that got my attention. Maybe you can do like a re-sound design project, demo reel, even 30 seconds using synthesizers, but of course you need your official show reel as well. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you
That's a
think?
tricky one.
What do you think, Leonard?
Yeah. As far as I think that basically I'll feed this back into what you're saying, where you like your team members to have a lot of breadth as far as a lot of skills that are, besides
Mhm.
just, working with audio. I think that I like to think of working in game audio as an art, and as an artist and as a sound designer, composer, coder, creative person, that we bring in our life experiences and things from other domains of experience besides audio into our production. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to do with the school, is to invite people and allow people access from around the world to bring their experiences from different cultures into video games, because I find that video games can be very insular. It's just like the typical, like first person shooter this, and like, sports game this, and, whatever, online, whatever, team, first person, whatever that, or RPG and stuff. And there's so many possibilities, like obviously you had your game Blind VR, which does not fall into any common category. Like there's so many possibilities for creative interactive, like, audio.
Mm.
And I think that, sure, if somebody shows that they can do something crazy in Serum, that's cool. But then also, like, it's great if they can also show that they can do really great, Foley recording, that they understand how, like, games work from a production standpoint, like how the different teams work together, obviously, like, coding stuff, like how the music, like you say, interfaces with the sound design, and hopefully somebody that's open to learn more, even though they know a lot already, because that can be difficult. People's experiences can become hardened over time, where they're like, this thing has worked for me. I've worked in film audio for 10 years and I've always done it this way. And sometimes I find that collaborating and bringing those people into game projects can actually be kind of difficult, because they have a lot of habits that don't translate well to interactive.
Mm.
And so with the school, I've worked a fair amount with students like that, to try to just say, like, look, you know a lot and that's great, but it's also good to just be a little bit, gentle about what you do know and what you can still learn. And I've been really lucky to have some really advanced people come through the course recently, which who have gone on to like working on fairly big studios. So just saying that, I think that this question just goes to like working in game audio requires a lot of different disciplines,
Yeah.
but it's also good to take a step back and to see it as art and to see that everybody has something to contribute as an artist. Um,
I'll
yeah,
come
but
back.
one
I'll come back.
question. Yeah, yeah, cool. That'd be great. And I think
I,
as sort of a final question, you're in Italy, you're several time zones ahead. You're, living in the future. And because I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. And I'm just curious, like, because you have an interest in meeting up with people. Obviously, you came to Game SoundCon and travel and stuff like that, and you had a previous career, working in film audio. And how do you? And you had an interest in going to like to Scotland to learn more. Like as a you know from where you're living right now and sort of your background, being in Italy and with the team that you're working on, how do you find that like in contrast with the people that you've met from other places in the world, how do you see like what do you feel like you bring that's unique to game audio from who you are?
I will say that we are. Wait, I need to really find the right way to answer this question. Okay, I think we are a little bit out of the system, let's say, of the
Mm-hmm.
main system, and this is a great opportunity for us to contribute finding innovative solutions with small budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
that's even the approach I tried to describe earlier with my collaborators. It's something that I know and I realize it's something that I can afford because we are not like a big, we are part of a big group, and we are learning, and I'm learning to shift some of my approaches into something new. But what I feel is being outside of the how the main dynamics of the system work, uh, gave me the opportunity to find new approaches and don't
Mm.
follow like a path, like
Mm.
which is something that it's not better, it's not worse, it's something different. Is But I know that where I can fit. I
Mm-hmm.
feel comfortable, and I joined 3 4 big things because I felt comfortable. They gave me completely responsibility for the sound, and the sound design team is growing up, and we are making great collaboration with music artists as well, and that's something that is really really important for me. Is feel free to feel myself, and to give my best. I will probably not give my best doing the same uh, task for many years. I know there are people that are amazing at this, and thank to those people that I don't know edit and implement sounds for engines. It's And I'm really humble. In a very humble way, I would say I would never be able to edit and implement that sound in a better way. Of course not. That's not my world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, I think it's good. What I'm taking away from it is that you're approaching basically the problems and the challenges that you have from working with a smaller team, but trying to create like a product that is maybe you know like in other places, it would have maybe a bigger budget and maybe other resources that are different. But you're also like seeing from yourself, like, yeah, this is also where I'm, yeah, like you decided not to move to like, work at Rockstar in, say, Scotland, even though you went there. Like, there, to me, there's a reason why you're still, working where you're at. Like, this, I think, is like it's your home and you feel more yourself there. And then as you do that, you bring more of yourself to, the product. And there's challenges in that, but the challenges are, they're worth it because you're able to, you know, basically do it like the way that you do it rather
Yeah.
than doing it trying to conform to some other way of doing it.
And
So
and
yeah.
that's something that I will connect to what we were saying before about the serum thing.
Mm,
This is, if you show me, if you're honest about who you are and what your interests are and what your skills are, it's easier for me to say, okay, you're the right person. Sometimes I was the first one doing an interview saying, guys, I'm not the right person for you, and I'm sorry.
right.
It is important to do that, to say, to when you feel, I know that when you start, it's important to, you need to get into the industry, and I understand that, but sometimes you need to say, well, I'm not the right one, and
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that has been, that makes sense for other people that are doing the hiring process. Where, I had a student that they posted a whole bunch of like, yeah, these are places that I've applied to. It hasn't worked out, and it's just like, yeah, but that's also fine because if you get into a studio where you're not a fit, it's similar to a relationship that you get stuck in that you don't want to be in. And it's better to just try to be honest up front, and hopefully, things will work out for the better. So yeah, yeah. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll wrap it there, and yeah, and we'll just do a quick hello, and you can post your socials into our Discord just to say hi to folks. So yeah, I think we'll basically wrap there. So yeah, thanks so much, Paolo. Really enjoyed the talk, and yeah, connecting with you this way. Hopefully, whatever when things open up and sometime in the future, we can
I'm sure.
basically meet again.
I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll meet,
So
and good luck to everyone, at the school now. Good luck. Keep pushing.
perfect. Okay. Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Bye. Ciao, ciao, ciao.